And I have with me Mr. Jika Bata, public affairs analyst and journalist, also here with us to look at the papers. Together we'll screen through the papers and see what they're saying, and also prepare your mind for the day. Welcome.
Good morning.
All right, we'll begin with ABS websites. On ABS website we have Anambra government resolve to sustain Anambra government state resolve to sustain tempo of road construction. Anambra unveils new color designs for commercial vehicles. Onitsha South Local Government Council inaugurates health intervention committees. NDLEA cautions youth against illicit drugs. We also, the story there has it like Anambra government cautions residents against payment of revenue to individuals. Anambra unveils new color designs for commercial vehicles. Any advantage? Is there any developmental plan we're seeing from this?
Well, I wouldn't know, but I know before now we used to have the yellow, black, and white color designs for commercial vehicles. Perhaps something might have brought about the need for a change. Another thing is for making sure that commercial bus drivers or commercial bus owners adhere to that color code, so that as a passenger, when you are boarding a bus, to an extent, you will be sure of the vehicle you are boarding. But when you board buses that do not have color codes, the approved color codes, it's kind of it causes your mind not to be settled, because you don't know if the driver is a genuine commercial driver or a kidnapper, so to say.
All right. So certainly it will ensure better security in the state. All right. Let's look at this. Anambra State Government state resolve to sustain tempo of road construction.
That's a good one. There's no development without access roads, and I'm happy this is coming at a time where Anambra is in their need of good roads. Kudos to the state government for the ones already constructed, and I'm also happy that they see the need to still open up some communities by way of creating access roads. It will bring about development, to bring about economic development, social development, and the like. So it's a good one coming from the government. I just hope the contractors won't be a cog in the wheel of this development.
All right, the contractors will certainly not be the cogs in the wheels. All right, let's look at the Daily Sun. We have several stories. Okay, let's take Cordita first. Cordita. Now, iru akwụkwọ Cordita where gọọmenti Anambra zọpụtala nwa ọhụrụ agbahapụrụ n'ọwa mmiri n'Ọka. Otu nwata nwoke Anambra agbapela amụma ọrụ ugbo nke afọ 2019. Anyị nwekwa akụkọ ndị ọzọ dị n'iru akwụkwọ ka ọ dị taa. Ka anyị wekwara National Light at the same time. On the front page of the National Light, finally, federal government drops Ruga. Ohaneze orders Lord Buhari. Nigerians eat 1 billion naira rice daily. Air peace driven by patriotism. That's coming from Obiano. In Oka, abandoned baby rescued from erosion site. Those are the major stories that we have on the front page of the National Light. Okay, there is also a big one there. Congratulations to National Light. 3 National Light staff win Amazon Awards for female journalists. Let's begin from there. I think this is a big one for National Light and a big one for female journalists in Anambra.
It is. It's high time we begin to recognize the women in the profession. Most of them have given their all. Most of them have been in the profession for quite a very long time, and the accolades there seems sometimes their colleagues elude them. So it's good for us to sometimes, once in a while, look for ways to encourage them so that we have more female going into the profession. Journalism, it's not an easy profession for men. Talk more of the women. So if you find women who go into the profession, there's every need for you to encourage them. So
and
that
also a very big one for National Light newspapers.
Yes, National Light National Light has paid its due quite for over a long time. I know National Light has produced the chairman of the State Council, about 3 of them, one of them a female in recent times. So National Light has is one of the media organizations that are showing the light, just not within the state, but in the region.
Yes, and I must comment, like you pointed out, the engagement of National Lights now, presently online, is becoming massive. And you know that journalism is going beyond paper and all the normal traditional means, and influencing people to online and having that big online presence will also go a long way in building that capacity, that trust, and that connection people want to have with their home base.
Definitely. We can't just rely on readers who are within Anambra or within the region.
Exactly.
Yeah, so people who are outside Nigeria would always want to know what's happening in the States. So it's our duty to let them know that these are the things that are going on.
Okay. Daily Sun newspaper now. We have big stories there. It's a tragedy that is being recorded. In fact, it's most on the front pages of most of the papers this morning. Fire, fury, pipeline explosion kills 2, houses burnt, vehicles destroyed in Lagos. 3 killed, 11 injured as bus plunges into Ogun River. There you can see the pictures of the fire disaster in Lagos yesterday. Uproar in House of Reps. Chinda defies Speaker, grabs minority leader's seat. I am not surprised by House Treasury that's coming from Wike. More trouble for Senator Abo as photojournalist accuses lawmaker of assault over debt. Professor at Center of Nigeria-Ghana face-off opens up. I went into hiding as my life was in danger. Atiku tenders 3,465 result sheets against Buhari. Professor Nwabeze takes over ex-VP's legal team. That's a big one there. And then Koza police probe Pastor Pato Yimbo over alleged rape. You see that on page 10. For details of this story, you can pick the papers or go to their online sites for details. There are many stories here. We are seeing another pipeline explosion in Lagos. How did we get here? These explosions, tanker disasters are becoming, will I say, a daily routine.
It's quite unfortunate, and my heart goes out to family of those who lost their loved ones. You recall that just this week there was a tanker that exploded in Benue State.
Yeah.
Yes, cause of people died as well. I think these fires don't just occur. Something, excuse me, brings about them. If that of the tanker, we can blame it on human error. But for pipeline explosion, except if the pipelines are not buried in the ground. If they are buried in the ground, because the pipelines are not supposed to be on the surface of the ground, yes, where people, mischievous people would go to break it so as to steal oil from it. We don't really know the details of what's happened, but it's quite unfortunate, and it calls for more attention to protection of pipelines, and NNPC or whichever organization is in charge of pipelines should look into it. Perhaps the pipes are wearing out. Perhaps
Exactly.
they need to be changed.
Exactly.
Then something should be done on time so as to save the lives of humans living around
You know,
where we have
actually,
those
I
pipelines.
actually, like you pointed out, I actually don't want to blame it. I want to blame it on vandalization. But let's say it's not vandalization. Let's look at when last these maintenance were done. When last was it done? How far has these agencies gone to ensure that these places are safe for human habitation? And maybe we also consider how near the residential houses are around in that area. I think there should be a regulation where houses of where people live should be situated in that area. I also want us to look at this very important story because it is becoming alarming. Last time it was xenophobia attacks in South Africa. This time is in Ghana. We are seeing shops of Igbo people being locked up in Ghana. Their businesses have been posed to several issues. How did we, no, I don't want to say how did we get here again, but why is the challenge of culture, of tribe, becoming a very reoccurring issue in African politics? You remember that just recently, 53 African countries signed the Free Trade Agreement, and last week, ECOWAS Economic Community of West African States also approved the currency. If these things are done, but the people who make up these entities do not trust themselves, how do we build that economic base from Africa?
I think it has to do with the people. What awareness is the several governments creating for its people? Now, Nigeria used to be the big brother of Ghana.
Yeah.
Nigeria has always been the shoulder that Ghana leaned on when they're in times of distress. And it's quite unfortunate that this is happening in our backyard, as some persons will say. In Ghana, of all places, I think the ambassadors of these two countries needs to sit down. Even the governments of these two countries needs to sit down and find out what really went wrong and what can be done to mitigate these issues. If we are having issues with a country like Ghana, it doesn't tell well of our existence as brothers in the West African region at all.
All right, it doesn't tell well. There's also a story there that I also want us to point out, the politics happening in the House of Rep. Do you think the Speaker really has a role to play in who emerges as the minority leader? We are seeing controversies coming up in the PDP. Who leads, Chinda or Elumelu?
I remember before the election of the Speaker, a representative of the Gbejabiamila camp said they've had an agreement with PDP, they've reserved positions, juicy positions for members of the PDP, and there won't be any trouble and all of that. But PDP as a political party has the right to say this is who we are projecting for the position of a minority leader. Even if the Speaker appoints some other persons into other positions, that is quite understandable, but not positions such as minority leader. That is it is the right of the party to say who they want to be. All right,
let's run now to the Daily Times. On the front page of the Daily Times, we have presidential poll. Tribunal admits 5,197 election result sheets as exhibits. Security strategies working, security chiefs insist, say armed forces, other security forces will work harder to ensure every Nigerian is secure. Ruga Settlement, Northern Governors Forum calls for calm. democratic expression. House leadership crisis looms as PDP summons Elumelu. Okay, Ibazu. PIB passage. Ninth Assembly will end the jinx, Lawana shows. There are other stories on that front page of the Daily Times. But let's look at the main story there, the big story on the Daily Times. Yesterday, President Muhammad Buhari had a strategic meeting with heads of security agencies, and maybe that's the outcome. They are saying that they are ready and they are working, that their strategies are working, and that they will work harder. Do you believe them?
So far, so good. It has been a warm and cold reaction when it comes to issues of security in Nigeria. And when I say issues of security in Nigeria, I'm not talking of the petty thieves in our streets.
Okay.
I'm not talking of the pickpockets. I'm talking of the terrorists who have made life unbearable for people up north. In recent times, we've not heard of any attacks. We've not heard of any bomb explosion and all of that. But I just hope it will be sustained, because what we used to have is that after about a month or two, you will hear that Boko Haram has sacked a military base or a military camp in the north. And it is not a good story to hear or to tell at all. I once saw a video where Boko Haram terrorists overran a military camp, and you see our Nigerian soldiers running for their lives. It's quite it's not a good story to tell, as I said earlier. It's very painful. The way and manner the terrorists looted the camps, took away their ammunition, took away their guns and all of that. So I think they are working, but what we want is first for it to be sustained. Then secondly, for government to truly give them the capacity to work, give them the support that they need to work. Over time, we've seen some military men come online to say they are not working, they are not being supported and all of that. Some of them have the zeal to work, some of them have the zeal to fight, but they lack the support which they need. So I am urging the federal government to give them the support that they need. They are humans like us, we understand. The job they do is like a voluntary job. So the best we can do for them is to give them the tools with which to carry out their tasks.
Their duties.
Yes.
Okay, finally, on the Daily Times, before we move to the Punch, we have a story here. Ninth Assembly will end the jinx. Lawana shows on the petroleum industry bill. Over time, 7th, 8th, and 9th Assembly. I think it was also in the 6th Assembly or even before that. Do you see this House or this Assembly as constituted succeeding with this passage?
Let me not preempt.
Okay.
But I do not think it will happen in this assembly. Even if it will, there might be an amendment to that bill. It wouldn't come out the way.
But why do you think the political will behind that seems to be whittling by the day? It seems there are interests that bill will...
It's very obvious that there are vested interests. You understand? And this is why we cannot get, or we've not had that bill signed. It's very obvious that there are vested interests from those who are into the key players in the industry. So, and if that bill is signed into law, so many things will be changed, and these persons will be affected.
All right. Several things will be changed and these people will be affected. Let's just run through the Punch and the Nation newspaper. On the front page of the Punch, Atiku tenders Niger Yobe results says INEC has two different outcomes in local governments. Lagos pipeline fire kills 2 scores injured, 68 vehicles, shops, bonds. Stock market loses 291 billion naira in 4 days. And then on the front page of the Nation newspaper, outrage over deadline on cattle settlement project. Police detains slapping Senator Abo in Abuja. Our strategy is okay, says service chiefs. Those are the stories we have. Still, 2 killed, 21 injured, 31 vehicles damaged in Lagos fire. We're having contradicting figures so far, but the truth is that some people died, several injured, vehicles and houses damaged. Let's look at this Ruga story before we go. Outrage over deadline on cattle settlement project. There were issues in the north. Immediately that suspension took place where some northern youths came out to speak in public and say they are giving the federal government 30 days or 40 days ultimatum to ensure they implement that policy. And the governors of the Northern Forum are now saying, or urging for calm and democratic expressions. We could remember also some time ago when some group of northern youths also threatened Igbos in the north.
2016.
How do we deal with these recurrent issues of threats to tribe or people's ethnicity because of where they come from and not because of the ideals they promote and respect?
It's quite unfortunate that we are having, or we are still discussing, having such issues in 2019. Such issues that has to do with ethnicity ought to have been buried long before now. First of all, let me talk about Ruga, the suspension. I want us to understand that suspension does not mean cancellation. Let us have that at the back of our mind. Perhaps they decide to suspend for there to be calm, so they will come back and hit us with it. Or they decide to suspend it, so they will go back and make some amendments and come and rebrand and come out again. Or rename and come out again. That's number one. Then back to your question. It's not our duty as individuals to stand up and caution people who make such statements. As a matter of fact, I can't imagine somebody giving an organization or an individual giving a warning to the federal government or to over 200 million Nigerians, because it's more like a slap to our face. If there is an issue, you throw it to the public and sample people's opinion. And the opinions of Nigeria is very clear on this matter. We do not want Ruga. It's very clear. We do not want Ruga. And if the people say they do not want Ruga,
it means they
don't want it.
Thank you very much, AGK. Because of time, that's how far we're going. And thank you for making sound statements and taking strong positions on issues that we looked at this morning. Ejika Bata is public affairs analyst and a journalist with National Life newspapers. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right, stay with us as we look at our various themes for the day. If you're a tenant, if you're a landlord, stay tuned as we look at issues that affect both of you.